In part 8 of the 2026 Miami Hurricane opponent preview series, I will preview the North Carolina Tar Heels, our opponent up in Chapel Hill on Halloween. If it were someone other than Bill Belichick, the disappointing 4-8 season would be seen as a chance to start over. Things are becoming clearer. Changes are necessary. We're focused on 2026 and other typical statements from new head coach. However, Belichick's 74. There's no long-term strategy for success at North Carolina. The Tar Heels are expected to win because he is Belichick, unlike the coach on the other side. Understand that Bill Belichick did not come to North Carolina to start over. Okay? This man, while in New England, won the Super Bowl in 2018, and he's won 6 of those, by the way. He has a record of 45 and 50 as a head coach since 2018, including 5 in New England and 1 at North Carolina. He hasn't had a winning season since 2021 when they went to the playoffs and lost to Buffalo in the division in the wild card game. He needs to make Carolina competitive in the ACC title race immediately. If Duke, which is Carolina's biggest rival, could win the conference last year, which they did, then why can't the greatest football coach of all time work some magic and create a contender this year? Look at some key stats from last year. In the first half, opponents outscored North Carolina 177 to 105. Total offense per game, opponents averaged 336.9 yards a game to just 289.22 for North Carolina. They were second to last in the FBS in fourth down stops, allowing conversions 75% of the time. Well, starting with the offense, okay? Well, that didn't go as planned. Carolina started the season with a well-executed touchdown drive against TCU, scoring 24 more touchdowns throughout the season. Only 7 had fewer. Well, now you have Bobby Petrino coming in as the new offensive coordinator, and it's there to energize that offense. It should be exciting. Okay, what's working on offense for Carolina? Let's not underestimate the 65-year-old Petrino. He was the offensive coordinator at Arkansas for the last 2 years, and it went quite well. While there, Arkansas ended the season ranked 13th in total offense and 7th in yards per play, averaging nearly 7 yards each time. In contrast, North Carolina ranked 120th in yards per play with an average of 4.94. The quarterback situation is intriguing. Gio Lopez, who is now at Wake Forest, struggled to find success. Well, it's not entirely his fault. Now Billy Edwards from Wisconsin, Miles O'Neill from Texas A&M, and promising freshman Travis Burgess are in the mix. There are now several options. If the running game is even slightly effective, positive outcomes follow. The Tar Heels achieved a 3-0 record last year when they surpassed 165 yards on 45 rushes. Petrino's Arkansas offense managed to rush for over 145 yards against every team except Auburn and Missouri. Demon June, the leading rusher for North Carolina, returns after accumulating 494 yards and averaging 5.5 yards per carry. The second leading rusher on the team, Benjamin Hall, is also back. Okay, here's what needs improvement offensively. North Carolina requires a quarterback to step up. Billy Edwards had a solid year in his third season at Maryland, but he wasn't a standout player and got injured early last year at Wisconsin. Miles O'Neill is a tall 6'5" passer, but he only attempted 20 passes at A&M. And Travis Burgess is a true freshman. It takes one to rise from the group and stand out, but it's got to happen quickly. Downfield plays must be executed, along with medium and short passes. With Petrino now in charge of the offense, changes should occur, but the team needs to improve its downfield game after averaging just 9.7 yards per completion. The offense must expand and be ready to take more risk. Can the offensive line be a stronger presence? It wasn't a major issue, but it didn't contribute positively. Several transfers are being considered to address the situation. You have rotational backups in Aiden Banfield at guard and Crystal Kelly at center who need to step up. And you add in 6'8", 336-pound Jordan Hall, who must be a dominant force at left tackle. The player to keep an eye on is tight end Jelani Thurman, who's a junior. Along with Jordan Washington and Jackson Warren, the offense is well equipped with reliable tight ends like Jake Johnson, who was last year's top pass catching tight end, but he transferred to Auburn after recording only 16 receptions. Thurman is a large target who comes over from Ohio State. Washington hails from Texas, and Warren stands 6'8" from Colorado State. All three are expected to play a significant role moving the chains with mid-range plays. Let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Now, I tried to persuade people last year that Carolina's defense was excellent, but no one could pay attention. And there's a reason for this. The 294 points allowed were the fewest in the season since 2009, but the defense got no support from the offense. Yet, it kept the team in many games competitively. There isn't much returning starting talent, but it's not a complete overhaul like last year. If the offense can perform adequately, the defense will handle the rest. Now, here's what's working on defense. Now, to be honest, it performed very well. Steve Belichick, Bill's son, excelled as the Washington defensive coordinator in 24, joining his father. Arguably the best defensive strategist in football history, and pieced together a solid season with the resources he had. Now, there were issues. The statistics aren't impressive, but the expectations for this group were unrealistic. When they conceded more than 15 points, Carolina went 0-8. The linebacking unit is a bit unusual. Top tackler Kamori House transferred to Arkansas. Makai Gabor is now in Tallahassee at Florida State, and pass rusher Andrew Simpson is done. They do bring in Richmond's Peyton Seelman, who stands 6'1" and weighs 225 pounds, but he tackles everything in sight. He'll play on the outside in a 4-2-5 formation, while 6'4", 230-pound Derek McDonald, a sixth-year senior with 173 tackles over the past 4 years, missed most of last year. Now, the defensive interior is more unconventional. You have 6'2", 320 pounds Isaiah Johnson, who was part of the rotation, recording 40 tackles at the nose, and he'll rotate with 250-pound Xavier Lewis at the position. You add in from Florida Tavoris Brown, and the tackles should eventually come together positively. However, what needs improvement and the losses on the line are significant. DeAndre Robertson has the size for the NFL, but now he will be an important part of Oregon's defensive line. Another starting tackle, C.J. Mims, was sought after by A&M. Lee Sacker McCart Abu Jaud is finished, and second leading pass rusher Tyler Thompson is now in Louisville. Although the new players are promising, they will face a challenging learning curve. The defense's ability to create turnovers has diminished. While the defense performed well at times, it failed to make enough impactful plays to shift the momentum. They managed 6 turnovers in the first 3 games, but only 6 in the following 9 games. There was too much bending without breaking. The defense still struggled to get off the field. They allowed 40 opponents to convert 42% of their third down attempts. The situation was even worse on fourth down, with only 8 stops out of 32 attempts. Now, you want to watch Donovan Joliet Jr., a senior edge rusher on defense. He was the best transfers for North Carolina, and he needs to step up as the team's leading pass rusher immediately. He's a former linebacker. He's now bulked up. He was a nightmare for Richmond a year ago. 48 tackles, 9 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, and 9 quarterback hurries. Now, the keys to the season for North Carolina. The offense needs to be at least average. They need to quickly find more defensive playmakers and improve depth across the board. And they need to perform better on third down on both sides of the ball. Who has to shine? Billy Edwards Jr. Or any of the quarterback choices, but Edwards has the most experience, who should make the Carolina offense work, and that would be sufficient to get by. He may not have extensive experience, but he completed 65% of his passes while at Maryland in 24, and he threw for 220 yards in 8 out of his 11 games there. Remember this, North Carolina didn't reach 220 yards passing at all last year. The biggest concern? Scoring. Yeah, seriously, scoring. Fortune cookie football analysis. You can't win if you don't score more points than your opponent. Simple enough. They failed to score 20 or more points in 7 games last year and lost all of them. They didn't exceed 27 points against any FBS team. But while Bobby Petrino's Arkansas offense scored 28 points or more against FBS teams 7 times last year, while the 2024 North Carolina offense managed to do that 7 times. The biggest game, August 29th in Dublin against TCU. Nebraska's defeat to Northwestern in 22, Navy's loss to Notre Dame the following year, Florida State's tough loss to Georgia Tech in 24, and last year's Kansas State defeat to Iowa State. In the past 4 seasons, teams that have lost in Dublin to start the season struggled to recover. After last year's 48-14 blasting in Chapel Hill by TCU, they're looking to get revenge in Dublin, and that could indicate that this season is significantly different. Let's look at the season outlook. Now, on the bright side, North Carolina was just a few plays short of achieving 6 wins last year, which would have made them bowl eligible. They should have won against Cal and Virginia, and they stayed competitive with Duke. This year's Carolina Tar Heel team is improved, boasting more offensive talent and potential. Plus, they are still under the guidance of Belichick, who, while not solving all the issues last season, remained a highly respected coach. However, Carolina doesn't instill much fear in their opponents this time around. The season opener against TCU in Dublin is very crucial for building momentum, but they have a week off and a game against East Tennessee State to prepare for their opener when they go to Death Valley. Now, Clemson had a rough season last year and defeated Carolina by 28 in Chapel Hill. Following that, they have another week off to get ready for Notre Dame. Then a trip to Pitt, followed by a matchup with Duke. The Canes, Louisville, Virginia, and NC State are also on the schedule. Now let's look at this from a Canes perspective. Look, we know the deal. These guys have beaten us the last 5 times we've played them. This year, that must change, and I believe it will. I feel this is the year the streak ends, and we win a very tough game on the road in Chapel Hill. And with the big one at South Bend the following week, we need to take care of business with another 1-0 week up in Chapel Hill. Now for Carolina, I think they're going to get better. They're going to improve. I'm going to go 6-6 for North Carolina in 2026. In part 9 of the series, I will preview the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.